I love reading books, it's fun. I often read them with my mum. I like reading to explore. There's no better way, I'm sure. I love reading. There's so many books to choose. Get on board, you just can't lose. Books expand your mind, it's true. Reading books is
Hey
good
guys,
for you.
Today I am doing a book review on the book called Every Day by David Levithan. And especially since I was doing a book club with my mom on this book. Like, she just bought it for me and I had no idea what it was. Which is actually kind of exciting because then I can just like jump into a book with no expectation of what it was going to be like. I've only read one book by David Levithan before. It was Will Grayson, which I actually thought his part in the book was better than John Green's part. So I guess that's why I wanted to read this book in the first place. This book is about a person called A, and not A as in the letter A, but a book. Like, it's one, but like a one, I guess. Yeah. And the book is taking place over 40 days in A's life. And A is a soul. He changes body every single day. So he takes over a different body every single day, but he stays in that body only for one day. And so he's able to access that person's memories, but not their emotions. He basically has to live their day for one day, and A's pretty nice, so he just goes about everything, never really complicates things. But the first chapter, it takes over a body of a person called Justin, and he lives Justin's life as normal, and he falls in love with Justin's girlfriend called Rhiannon, and they have an amazing day together. He's trying to avoid getting attached to someone, like he was in love with a boy before, but he just realized it would never work out, so since then he's decided not to get involved with anyone else until he falls in love with her, and he comes back to her in different bodies. So one day when he meets her, he decides to tell her, and she's actually way more okay with it than you would expect, but she doesn't actually believe him, so he has to constantly prove himself. This is where I don't really like any of the main characters, because Rhiannon, the person he's in love with, feels like she can only like kiss him or be with him if he's a boy. If he's a girl, then she's super resistant to it, which just like, it nags at me, like it bothers me so much. And then the main person, like, it bothers me a little bit that he fell in love with her right away, and then like the story takes place over 40 days, and then during those 40 days he's just like completely devoted to her and has to meet her like every single day. Like, I feel like that's a little bit obsessive, but I mean, I understand him because he's never getting attached to anything. Like, he never gets to hug his own mom and stuff, and when he's explaining this to Rhiannon, and Rhiannon thinks he has like a sad life, right? And so I'm gonna read a quote that I really liked. Perfectly puts kind of like why I like his way of living. So it says, "It's just, I know it sounds like an awful way to live, but I've seen so many things. It's so hard when you're in one body to get a sense of what life is really like. You're so grounded in who you are, but when who you are changes every day, you get to touch the universal more. Even the most mundane details. You see how cherries taste different to different people. Blue looks different. You see all the strange rituals boys have to show affection without admitting it. You learn that if a parent reads to you at the end of the day, it's a good sign that it's a good parent because you've seen so many other parents who don't make the time. You learn how much a day is truly worth because they're all so different. If you ask most people what the difference was between Monday and Tuesday, they might tell you what they had for dinner each night. Not me. By seeing the world from so many angles, I get more of a sense of its dimensions." Which I just think is kind of beautiful that like A notices these kind of things. And I think A is a really beautiful soul, and when I talk to A, to my mom or anyone else, I say him, because to me it's so obvious that it is so more connected to the boy side than the female side. And obviously it doesn't have to be either, but like the way David Levithan writes it makes it seem that way. I know it's supposed to be like there's no gender to this soul, but it's just the way he writes it, it's a little bit more towards boy, in my opinion. Of course, it doesn't need to be that way. I feel like there's a greater message in this story, and it like asks a lot of questions also about A's life, but also about like our own. Like I love the idea that you get to be in different bodies every single day, but I think the reason I think of that now is because I am grounded into one body. This is the body I'm going to have, and I'm already grounded in this body. So for me to move on to another body, I already know how it is to be in this body, but he's lived like that every single day of his life. And so he only jumps into bodies that are his same age. And when I got to know this, I asked the question, does that mean that all the bodies that he jumped into is born on the same day as him? No, it doesn't. Which I also thought of, which means that, like, when he started to exist, he might not have been born to a body that was being born that day, if that makes sense, just that year. Or what if he was born into the body of a baby that was getting born that day, and then that soul of that like little baby wasn't there on the day it was born? That's just like really sad to me. I just thought of it, so I had to share it. And so I guess the day when he switches from a body that's like 16, which he is in this book, to 17, that's the day when it's like his personal birthday. So I guess from this like other view that he has, where he jumps from a body that's like depressed to like drug use to a jock to a person who starves themselves to a nerd to anyone, like he's experienced it all. You can kind of just like, he has so much knowledge of the world, and I want to know more of what he knows, because he doesn't actually share that much of what I'd actually like to know about him. And then I just need to address the ending of the book, because I was like, it was towards the end of the book, and I looked at other book reviews of this, and they all say the same thing, which is basically that towards the end of the book, I just feel like it's gonna be a terrible ending. Like, I know it's gonna be a terrible ending. It was sort of heading in like a bad direction. And then the ending completely surprised me, and it was the most beautiful thing ever. And it was just like, I literally, like, I cried, and I was just like, I don't want it to end like this. I feel so sorry for A. And I'm not gonna spoil anything more, but it was just really touching. And even though I think David Levithan is not the best writer, because he kind of repeats stuff and he uses a lot of literary terms, but like not in a good way, in my opinion, the stories are amazing. Like his stories and his journeys that he comes up with are brilliant, and that's why his books are so good. Philosophical quotes in this book, which I would say are like my personal favorite. I don't know if I agree with any of them, to be honest, but I'm just gonna read them because it kind of just like caught my eye, and there's no point of having a book review by me. It's not personal, right? So towards the end, when you kind of know the ending, A says this: if you stare at the center of the universe, there's a coldness there, a blankness. Ultimately, the universe doesn't care about us. Time doesn't care about us. That's why we have to care about each other. And I don't know if I believe that there's nothing in the universe, but it's just the way it was said. It was incredibly beautiful. That's the end of this, and I have 2 book recommendations that are kind of related to this. And the 2 books that I'm recommending is Will Grace and Will Grayson, which I read maybe like 2 years ago, so I don't know if I still think it's good, but I remember this as being like a good book as long as you bite through the John Green part. And then there's this book. I read this in 6th grade, which is like ages ago now, but it's a really good book, and it's a concept of like a different way of living. This one you don't really know if it's like fiction or real life, which is the same about every day. You don't know if it's like fiction or real life. Of course it's fiction because it's like a made up story, but like if it could actually be true or not. So yeah, that's for this book review. This one is called Forgotten by Kat Patrick. So I hope you guys all have a lovely day and a lovely reading week, and hopefully I'll see you guys soon. Bye!